Every breath you take is a gift from a quiet green force working in the background of life. Now strip it all away. Imagine it's all gone. No plants, no oxygen, no food. Just an empty silent earth without photosynthesis. This video isn't just about leaves, it's about life, about the reason you can breathe and why your heart is still beating. See, photosynthesis isn't just some school topic, it's a secret algorithm that runs this entire biosphere. It's how Earth breathes, feeds, and survives. And inside every leaf is a battlefield, a miracle machine, a living factory so advanced that our smartest minds still can't replicate. And at the heart of it is a tiny green cell, chloroplast. It doesn't speak, it doesn't sign, but without it, there is no Amazon forest, no wheat fields, no foods, no you. So now that you know why it matters, let's dive into how this photosynthesis actually works. At first glance, it's just a leaf, thin, green, unassuming. But when you look closer, you will find a macroscopic power plant, engineered by nature with a precision no human machine could ever match. Welcome to the photosynthesis machine. And just like a factory, every layer of a leaf has its own rules, where the first topmost layer is waxy cuticle, a thin hydrophobic coating that reduces the loss of water through transpiration, basically evaporation of water from leaves and plants. And due to this hydrophobic layer, water droplets stay on leaf rather than soaking in. And in some special plants, cuticle can be much thicker to adapt extreme temperatures. Now, second one is apoepidermis, a single layer of tightly packed cells that also prevent water loss. And this layer is translucent, due to which it allows sunlight to pass through itself. Now, third layer is palisade mesophyll, also known as palisade parenchyma. These are tightly packed column-shaped cells arranged vertically beside each other. And these are tightly packed to maximize the absorption of sunlight, where these cells are crammed with chloroplast, way more than any other leaf cells. And this is the part where most of the leaf's photosynthesis actually happens, where each cell acts like a mini light harvesting machine with only one job in hand: make food from light. Now, let's move to the fourth layer, spongy mesophyll. And these are irregular round-shaped, loosely packed cells. And it also contains some chloroplast, so it also does photosynthesis, just not as intense as palisade. But it has air spaces between its cells, due to which it acts like a ventilation system by allowing CO2 to enter through stomata, then diffusing it into spongy layer and moving it to palisade layer to do photosynthesis, and in return releasing oxygen and water vapor out into atmosphere. Now, fifth one is vascular bundle. So vascular bundle is like plant's internal transport system, consisting of three components: xylem and phloem in the transporters, and the third bundle sheath cells, a protective layer around the bundle like a body. Now, xylem are dead cells which only move in one direction, up, using transpiration pool, and it transfers water and minerals from roots directly to the leaves, like a water pipe. While on the other hand, phloem are living cells that moves in both directions, up and down, using active pressure flow mechanism, and it usually transfers sugar and amino acid from leaves to rest of the plant, like a food delivery truck. And now bundle sheath cells. See, these are the layer of tightly packed cells that surround the vascular bundle, the xylem and phloem, in the plant leaves and stems. And it basically acts like a bodyguard that regulates and prevents leakage of sugars, water, or ions from the bundle. And at the end, lower epidermis, the bottommost protective layer of a leaf, which are made of flat, transparent epidermis cells. But unlike the upper side, the lower epidermis is loaded with stomata, which also include guard cells, subsidiary cells, and sometimes trichomes, tiny hairs. And stomata are tiny pores in the leaf surface that acts as valves for gaseous exchange. Plus, it helps to regulate water loss. And guard cells are two kidney-shaped cells that swell and shrink to open and close the stomata. Now, the mesophyll cells we talked about, where I said the main photosynthesis takes place, let's zoom into them a bit. See, this is the part where actual juice reactions take place, where chloroplast, the green organelles, has its own DNA, its own membrane with its own origin, and inside it are tiny disc-shaped membrane stacks called thylakoids, which are floating in a liquid called stroma. And let me be clear, these thylakoid discs are like individual pancakes, and grana are stacks of those thylakoid pancakes. Also, stroma is the fluid around and between those stacks inside the chloroplast, where these aren't just plant parts, they catch lights, split water, and build sugars. And also, the reason why plants are green is because of chlorophyll, which absorbs all red and blue color but reflects green one. And it's the amount of absorption of light that gives different color to different parts of the plant. And here is a quick speculative endosymbiosis theory where people say that since chlorophyll has its own DNA, so what might have happened is that billions of years ago, a single-celled organism swallowed a photosynthetic bacterium, but instead of digesting it, it formed a partnership to do photosynthesis together for each other's benefit from the process. Since then, this bacterium had a permanent resident and passed down through generations that we today call chloroplast. And if you ask me, then yeah, this story does explain why chloroplast has its own DNA. But I would love to hear what you think in the comment section. Anyway, now that you know what chloroplast actually is, let's see what happens when light hits it. So now we are going inside thylakoid membrane, where light energy is captured and converted into chemical energy in the form of ATP and NADPH that will later be used to build sugars. Now, light first strikes to, not photosystem 1 but to photosystem 2. Well, you also know what gets discovered first gets the first number. Anyway, light at first strikes photosystem 2, which is a complex of proteins and pigments embedded in membrane, and these photons excite electrons, which are then passed to a molecule called plastoquinone, the first carrier in the ETC, electron transport chain. But those electrons need to be replaced, and that's where photolysis comes in, where an enzyme splits water molecules into protons, electrons, and oxygen, 2H2O to give 4H positive plus 4 electrons plus O2. And this O2 oxygen gets released out, which is what we breathe. Now, the electrons travels down the electron transport chain, ETC, a series of protein complexes in the membrane. And as the electron moves from one complex to the next, energy is released, which is then used to pump protons H positive into thylakoid lumen, creating a photon gradient. And this photon buildup will later power ATP synthesis. Now, these low energy electrons arrive at photosystem 1, but they need a boost. So another photon excites PS1, giving electrons more energy. Then these high energy electrons are transferred to pyridoxine, a freely moving electron carrier. Finally, pyridoxine delivers the electrons to NADP positive reductase. Then this enzyme uses the electrons and a proton H positive to convert NADP positive into NADPH, a high energy molecule used in the next stage of photosynthesis. And remember those protons we pumped into lumen earlier? Now, they rush back into stroma through a protein called ATP synthase, and this flow of protons are called chemiosmosis. That provides the energy to convert ADP and inorganic phosphate into ATP. Then this ATP along with NADPH is now ready for the next phase, the Calvin cycle. So to summarize the light dependent reactions, at first light hits photosystem 2 that excites electrons. Then water is split where oxygen gets released out that we breathe. Then electrons move through ETC and protons gets pumped. Then light hits photosystem 1 which re-excites electrons, and then NADPH and ATP are produced. Also, this entire sequence happens in milliseconds and countless more times in every green leaf under the sun. Now, welcome to stroma, the quiet place between the thylakoid stacks. No flashing lights, no electricity, but here the real science happens. And yeah, Don't confuse it with stroma we talked about earlier. That stroma was tiny pores on lower epidermis that helps in gases exchange. But this stroma is inside chloroplast, fluid filled space for Calvin cycle, a site where carbon dioxide from the air becomes the building blocks of life. First, carbon dioxide drifts in, invisible but vital. It's caught by an enzyme called Rubisco, not the fastest but the most essential one. So Rubisco grabs the carbon and attaches it to a 5 carbon compound called RUBP. But this combination is unstable, due to which it shatters almost instantly, splitting into two identical molecules of 3-phosphoglycerate, also known as 3-PGA. It's a 3 carbon molecule with a phosphate group attached, a structure that can be transformed into glucose, starch, cellulose, etc. Now, the energy from sunlight that was stored in ATP and NADPH gets used, where ATP donates energy and NADPH donates high energy electrons, and together they convert 3-PGA into G3P, a glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate, a small sugar molecule, and this is the beginning of glucose. But not all G3P gets to become sugar. Most of it, like 5 out of every 6 molecules, is recycled. And this cycle uses more ATP to reshape these molecules back into RUBP, ready to capture more carbon, and that's why it's a cycle. Eventually, two G3P molecules leave the cycle and together they form glucose C6H12O6, the most basic sugar our body and the planet runs on. So here is the overall equation. With only 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water, plus sunlight, our nature creates glucose and oxygen, enough to power this entire planet, keeping all of us alive. But hold up a bit. See, even though these land plants hustle to survive in deserts, forests, and fields, there is another set of organisms silently floating in the ocean, doing photosynthesis on an entirely different level. Meet the phytoplankton. See, they are not plants, instead, they are photosynthetic microorganisms living in the ocean, drifting with the tides, and yet they are lungs of our planet. And forget trees for a second. These phytoplanktons produce up to 50 to 70% of Earth's oxygen. Yeah, you heard it right, 50 to 70%. And that's more than every forest, every jungle, every grassland combined. Tiny as dust, yet powerful enough to save the entire atmosphere. They don't need stomata, they don't even need leaves. Instead, they soak up sunlight directly from their thin cell walls, and with each photon absorbed, they pull carbon dioxide from the water, releases oxygen, and fuel the entire Earth's life. They are like the quiet titans of biosphere, not rooted in soil, but rooted in the story of life itself. So today we decoded what photosynthesis actually is, and whether it's a big tree or a phytoplankton floating in the deep ocean, the language of light is the same. No ego, no noise, just balance. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, then make sure to give it a like. And for more such videos, don't forget to subscribe the channel. And I'll see you back in the next video. Till then, tata, bye bye.